It's another beautiful day here in my beautiful kingdom of the GA people. And as I said, the GA are part of a large group of people, a nation that is probably from the same ancestor. They include the Nakadanya, they include the Bokora, they include the Pian, they include the Maseneko, and of course the GA, and there are two others that I have forgotten, and these are probably from the same ancestor. They are from the same mother. Again, when we talk in terms of evolution, or we talk in terms of paleontology, we say that all African people, or all peoples of the world, came from the same mother. That we call the Dinka Nation at the stage of Homo of Australopithecus. But even at the stage of Homo sapien, we talk about how all African people came from the so-called African Eve, a woman who lived in East African region about 90,000 years ago. Now, it looks like most of African people, because we have matriarchal system that trace ourselves from our mothers, we all came from the same mother. And, so the people, the GA people and, most parts of Karamoja, they're the people that are much talked about and least understood. And when I was invited by the Prime Minister of one of the GA kingdom, a dynasty that dates back thousands of years, I knew that they would definitely receive me in very good light, because I know African history, I know African culture. And anybody who is keen to pursue African history and African culture and who respects African tradition will definitely be respected and will definitely be invited. However, I was not prepared for the type of reception that I was given, including inviting me to be initiated in the culture and in the clan to the level of an elder. So I can sit on the council of the elders, and I can then that can give me an entrance into the different kingdoms or different nations that make the nation that we know, or the people that we know, are the Karamojong. And as I said, it's much talked about and least understood. And most of the time, what people know about the Karamojong is that they raid. They are raiders and they are rustlers and they steal cows and they kill people. Which is really a stereotype. It is a form of stereotype. These are some of the most sophisticated people. These are some of the most cultured people. These are some of the most educated people. These are some of the most peaceful, people. They are also the most just. They remind me of the Ethiopians of Thebes, the tallest, the wisest, the most just of all men. And they remind me of the ancient Egyptians. Actually, they dress like the Egyptians. They say they came from Ethiopia, and they dress like Egyptians. But Ethiopia they're talking about is the Ethiopia of modern time, which is different from Ethiopia of ancient time. Ethiopia of ancient time started from Lake Nyanza, Narubare, going down and covered Tanzania and present-day Zimbabwe. The Ethiopia of current time is northeast of Karamoja. And they are related, to the, the people who live in Tanzania, not in Tanzania, in Ethiopia, and also in Sudan, and they are also related to the Turkana. But let's speak one myth, like the myth of cattle rustling. Now, these people, their life depends entirely on cows. And before the disarmament, or before the time of troubles, an average home would have about 250 cows. Rich people would have up to 6,000 cows. That is now different because of the reason that were explained to me. But so imagine this is the cow that will give you cow dung for manure. It will be a cow that will give you blood for food, milk for food, meat. But they rarely kill cows apart from ceremonies, and they hardly sell any cow. So Now, if you were a clan leader or a king of a particular clan or a particular nation, and then you found that a pestilence has come and destroyed the cows, and almost every cow is dead, and you have 10,000 people to feed. What are you going to do? You are not going to sit there and starve. You will do what America does. Although America doesn't do it because they are poor or they are starving, America does it because they are strong and they have an army and they have weapons that kill from far. It is the law of survival for the fittest. Or the law of the jungle that America preaches. So America will go in another country like Iraq, invade it and steal its oil. It will go in a country like Libya, invade it and steal its oil. It will come to a country like Uganda and intimidate it and steal its oil. The Karamojong just did to survive, to avert famine and to avert disaster. Yes, there is a law against stealing, but it is superseded by another law, and that law is the law of self-preservation. So what would happen was the leader would then order, his people to go and raid another village, another community far away, and take cows so that they can survive. The other community, of course, has lost its cows, it has lost its herd, but it knows that if it was faced with a similar situation, it would also do the same. So imagine if the Bajisu depended entirely on millet, and then there was a failure of the millet crop, just like there was in Ireland when there was an Irish famine. The Irish could have gone and raided the British for food. The British had food. They didn't give it to them. So as a result, most of the Irish starved. Most of them jumped on, canoe, like they called them, ocean tombs because, most people died in them, and floated up to America and Canada. And they died in large numbers. Now, the Karamojong are more philosophical than the Irish. And so they do what they call, what I decided to call forced compensation. They force the neighboring nation to compensate them so that they could survive. But of course, like any system, a system is always subject to abuse. And in this case, the abuse could be that now they raid not only that, but to pay bride worth, because bride worth here is a lot of cows, like 120 cows. But there is no story that I've heard that they raided cows to sell them. No, they raided for self-preservation. They raided to settle bride worth. They raided to increase their wealth. That now has stopped, and although the method that was used in stopping it left a lot of people unsatisfied, but the raiding is gone. Now, if you go to another crowd and take cows, that will be seen as theft, and most of the elders here will actually get you and hand you over to the police. And I witnessed this myself. And so the road is that road of peace. It's a road of pacification. But the majority of these people have lost a lot of cows. There were a lot of scuffles and even battles, 2000, 2007, during the disarmament exercise. Even senior army officers were killed, lots of people. One of the stories that we will be telling you. And, sometimes if a particular group of people went and raided cows, then the army would come and take all of the cows that they have found in that area and offer them as compensation, to the people who lost the cows. But there are also stories of, the army, doing things that it's not supposed to do. Some renegade soldiers, taking the cows that really didn't belong to them. So there is a need for some form of compensation so that these people can have their cows and their herds back. And then they suffer from lack of water, water. Idi Amin wanted to divert the Nile, part of the Nile, so that the water can come from Karamoja. Karamoja is flat, so it would be easy to do a canal. And even if they asked for labor, these elders can command their people to go and dig a canal so that it brings water to the Karamojong. The elders, I'm talking about the elders can command. This is the system. It's a matriarchal system that has become almost patriarchal because of the influence of the Arabs and the influence of the church. But the system inheritance is through the female. So your mother has to be born in the clan, for you to inherit. But what is more, interesting is that they are ruled by elders, the age grade, different levels of elders, perfect respect, for the elders. And the elders are in charge and perfect command, transmission of knowledge and transmission of information. This is what all nations and all systems have lost. It does not exist in most parts of the world. The elder here is revered. Obviously, it doesn't exist among the Europeans who get their old people and throw them away in a home. They are to sit and feed them with eggs and other obnoxious things and die after a very short time. By the time they reach that age, they'll be suffering from, so many diseases. And you know what? The diseases are also coming to Karamoja because the people have changed their diet. Like, for example, whereas milking blood and milk, they used to say, in English, they say blood and milk don't mix. Just because they don't have sufficient knowledge of biology and they don't have sufficient knowledge of cows. Blood and milk does mix and it forms a nutritious food for the Karamojong and the Maasai, which has sustained them for a long time. But now in blood and milk, they add sugar. That opens the whole door for aspartame and splendor and, all the things that you find in sugar or sugary products. Most of the elders now drink soda, which is really obnoxious. So as a result, I have seen some of the elders having complications within their urinary tract, system and their digestive system, which is something that never used to happen, to the Karamojong. And then the other mythology that is talked about the Karamojong is that of bride wealth. I have always put my finger on bride wealth. I have said that one of the things that made African culture strong was African culture, the respect for woman. That African people respected a woman so much that for you to take this woman and ask for her hand in marriage, you have to show that you are wealthy, that you are rich, that you can afford to look after the woman and the children that you bring into existence. That you have to show that you have wealth that you have created. You can't just come out of anywhere and take an African child. It's one of the most supreme of African cultures. We call it high culture in paleontology, high culture and low culture. The low culture of the Indians and the Europeans, a woman pays bride wealth to a man. So in this case, a woman compensates her own inferiority by paying bride wealth to a man. That is why in India, excess women babies or girl babies are killed. And up until recently, in Hindu law and in Hindu custom, when a husband died, that husband, the wife, and sometimes the daughters of the man had to commit suicide. Not had to commit suicide. Were burnt on the funeral pyre because they cremate the dead. They burn the dead because they were pastorists. So they used to carry the remains of their fathers. But the woman would also be burnt to go and accompany, the husband. So the woman is really a permanent slave to the husband. In Europe, a woman pays bride wealth, but they are so poor now, they don't even have money to pay bride wealth. But in Africa, it was different. A man would go to the family of the woman and say, I have come as a supplicant to this home to take your pain and make it mine, to be a servant, if you will, if only I could have the hand of the woman in marriage. And this is a tradition that is ripe, that is surviving among the Karamojong, who exhibit so much love, so much care, and so much attention, for their women. I can't tell you. I was told by the elders when I was asked to join them on a a ceremony of initiation for a man who is acting as the assistant cow, of Kotido. That sometimes when a wife leaves the man, or a favorite wife, they said, a favorite wife, that the man is forced to commit suicide. Now that's great love. A man loves a woman so much he can't even bear to live without her. And, then some of the elders were saying, of course some disputed it, but others were saying that if that is the case, then it would mean that if the woman knows that she's favorite and she can advance to that degree, then she can hold the man hostage. She can always come and claim that she's going to leave. And then a man could do something, sell cows or whatever, because cows, although people keep a lot of cows is something that the Karamojong don't dispense with. They do not sell their cows. They keep their cows under all circumstances. And the stories are always told of. I was told that there was a story on television where this man had 400 sheep, and he was living in a small hut, or in a small house. And my thing was, why can't he live in a small house? Why does he have to sell his sheep to build a house? He doesn't need a big house. He needs, what is sufficient. Because once you look at this tradition, then you see that this tradition, this culture, is what we call utilitarian. You use what you need. You don't use more than what you need. You just stick to what your requirements is. For example, most of you see Karamojong, you see them wearing a very long gown, similar to what the Egyptians wore. Now, this long gown, which is like which opens up to resemble a bed sheet, is tied with a knot around the shoulder. Number one, you know that if you're a man, for example, and you have underwear, then your private parts are warm. And if the private parts are warm most of the time, you will accumulate germs. So most of what men get as prostate cancer, this prostate cancer comes out of wearing underwears. So if you want to avoid prostate cancer, you stay away from underwear, particularly tight underwear, or you wear boxers. Now, here in the heat, you don't need that. Just one robe is sufficient. Now, this one robe, which is a garment during the day, can also be a blanket at night. It can also be a bed sheet. And if you are bathing, it can be a towel. So you have to understand that it takes great wisdom to develop all these systems up to the level where they are now. Enterprise selection, to choose that you should have cows over everything else, to choose that you should have cows over goats, to choose that you should have cows over camels or over horses. The camels could do well here. In fact, the Turkana have good camels. The horses could do well here because the donkeys do well. But they only use donkeys for carrying. Among the GA, if you have a donkey and you are riding it, they'll call you a wizard. So that would not be a very good thing. So, again, the cows are used to settle bride wealth. And one of the things that is talked about is how big the bride wealth is. 120 cows, 150 cows, and they keep thinking, ooh, where are you going to get 150 cows? Now, for a start, each woman knows they are going to get married. And when they get married, their family is going to get wealth, 150 cows, which means that then the men and the parents begin to protect this child, this girl child. That's why one of the reasons they don't want them to go to school, because, you go to school, you are in Soroti, in Kampala, you get messed up, you get westernized, before you know it, you don't want to come home. Some of you have seen a lot of Karamojong children on Kampala streets. Now, some of you have seen a lot of Karamojong children on the streets of Kampala. And, if you look at this tight system where all the parents keep track of their children, you really wonder how did these children get out of these communities. And one reason the children got out of these communities, people came and persuaded them, let's take your children to Kampala, or let's take them to somewhere else. Or NGOs came and persuaded them that they're going to take them to some place and give them education. Then eventually when that NGO runs out of funding, or the owners just chew up the money, then the children are pushed on the street. But here, the woman is protected. Is protected by the parents, is protected by almost everybody. Because this woman is not only valued because she's a human being, but is also valued because she will be a source of wealth. Now, when those cows are given, 120 or 150 cows, the family actually keeps a small number. The immediate family keeps about 10 or 15 cows. Every member of the family and friends and whatever get cows. They get cows. Your uncle gets cows, your auntie gets cows, your brother gets cows, your friends, your neighbor, all get cows. So it is communal wealth. It's the perfect example of communalism or communal living. Everybody gets wealth from this woman, who has just got married. Now, if you are a son-in-law, you get 20 cows. So if you marry in a home that has, say, 7 sisters or 7 sisters, then it means by the time they all get married, you have 140 cows, which is almost equivalent to what you paid. Except, don't say I'm going to pay my cows in advance. I'm going to choose a family that has sisters. I'm going to pay the cows in installment, and then when I get all, the 20 cows from the other sisters, that then I can finish. In that way, I can work with my in-laws' money. No, that can't happen. No, that can't happen, and I tell you why it can't. Because if you pay the bride wealth in installment, yes, they will accept, but you'll not gain respect. And if there is a wedding, if, for example, the girl who's behind, or who was born after your wife, because in Karamoja they make it that the first child gets married, the first girl, child gets married. But if they work it out that that girl child of the sister to your wife gets married, and then the husband pays all the bride wealth, and you are not going to get anything. You're not going to get anything because you are not fully married. And what they will do is they will do a kind of crown, a white crown, made out of sheepskin, white, and they'll give it to you. It will be your crown of shame, so everybody would know that you didn't pay the bride wealth or you aren't that hard working. So once you begin to understand what bride wealth is, then you really begin to deeply appreciate, these cultures. Everything that was done, everything that is done, was well thought about. They thought about it. They, looked at different angles. They philosophized about it, and then they reached at what you'd call a perfect solution. And that perfect solution was, let them pay a lot of bride wealth, but even when we are paying bride wealth, it's not just you. All your friends, all your uncles, all your relatives contribute to that bride wealth. So a child is brought up, rooted in that community. He owes his existence to that community, owes his survival to that community, and even owes his family, to members of the community. So in that way, everybody looks out for each other. And in that way, the elders who set up the system, really did a good job. Although if you come to think of it, it's like the 1%. Most of these elders almost take everything. They are the first to eat. They eat the biggest portion. They take most of the decisions. But then the young people don't worry because they know their turn is coming, their chance is coming. They are going to reach a stage, and they are going to become elders too. Now, then it goes to how the communities where they live. You have seen the Manyatas fenced, very thick fencing. And this thick fencing is a fencing that is done to protect animals from coming to steal their crops, because they still get elephants and occasionally a lion, and giraffes. The national park is not very far from here. But they build it in such a way that the lion will not get in. And even the entrance is so low that when you are coming in, you are really forced to kneel down, or to squat. And if you've come as an enemy, you'll be squatting not in the most prepared position. You can't jump over the Manyata; it's too high and it's too thorny. Unless you've come, of course, you come with ladders. But that's really a major thief. The only thing that I saw around the Manyata that might need improving is, like washrooms and bathrooms, toilets that they need to work on. I have seen that work is ongoing. And most of the governments that has existed in Uganda have really made it a point to ignore the Karamojong. They didn't understand them. They didn't whatever. They chose a few leaders amongst them, gave them some position, and thought that they'd keep everybody quiet. And then after that, it's all off to the races. They have very poor roads. The roads are very poor. They have been promised roads, and that's one of the things that I will find out from the Minister of Transport. They have water, but it is not sufficient. And they've been asking me to go and see the dams, where the dams are, so I can ascertain how big they are and whether they can give them sufficient water. But I don't think so. Although they get a lot of water when it rains, the rains really bring a lot of water. So if there was a way of trapping them, and their leaders and the clan were talking about systems that can really trap this water, that would be something significant. So water dams, is one of the things that I'm going to to look into, or to lobby, as a activist and a historian. I find that when I raise my voice and shout about some issue, that issue gets done. Then there are people who want to grow food, want to grow crops. Yesterday we went to visit a family, a big village, where the Dodoth and the Gie, who were fighting each other, agreed to have peace, and they put a village. And they let the Dodoth and the Gie come and live with each other at the border, a peace village. This peace village, they were growing sorghum. The cows were taken. And then they started growing sorghum. But then the sorghum crop failed, because these companies that are selling seeds are doing these grafted seeds. They are doing these hybrid seeds, maybe GMO seeds. But those seeds are useless. These scientists in Naro, in Kawanda, they just test these seeds for a few months, and if they achieve some result, then they roll them out. And when they get in a different environment, they don't test how they react to heat. They don't test how they react to particular soils. They get one solution for everything. The magic bullet. It's like religion. God will take you to heaven. One solution for everything. That magic solution. Or HIV. HIV causes AIDS. How? When? How does it enter? What is the pathogenity? Where is the evidence? Nothing. But one solution. HIV causes AIDS. So that is the agriculture. But in this case, the crops failed, and the sorghum. So these people are really in a very dire situation. And I know that other parts of Uganda have been getting seedlings. They have been getting support. They have been getting wealth creation. So we want to see that this happens, that they also get access, to seedlings, that they also get access to, situations to do with Operation Wealth Creation. And, we want to see that our people plant fruits. Then I saw the diet. The diet, they need vegetables, they need fruits, they need to grow these things in sufficient quantities. They grow groundnuts, and the groundnuts do very well. The land is flat. They farm with oxen, oxen and tractors. And people think they are still there, that they are ahead of the Karamojong. These farm with oxen. 2 cows can do an acre. 2 cows can do an acre in 2 days. A tractor, and this chips 15,000. A tractor does an acre in 1 acre. You pay 80,000. So the production costs here are cheap, but the food is expensive. Like a kilo of groundnuts is 6,000. That's a lot of money. Most of the things, chicken is, they have a lot of chickens, organic chickens, but chicken, I think here is 20,000. A cow is 150,000. 150,000. No, a sheep is 150,000. A goat is 200,000, and a cow is 1.5. So if you think I'm going to go to the Karamojong, and I'm going to get myself very cheap cows, then you've got another thing coming, because that's not going to happen. Cows here, are a lot more expensive. And, so one of the things that you do with people who have preserved their culture is to help them do it. I mean, these people have granaries. The whole country, the whole nation doesn't have national granaries, national silos. But these people have. Each home has a granary. It is the best architectural design. How can you now ignore? This is how African people used to live. I think one of the affinity that I've had with this community and with this kingdom is because it is a verification of everything I've always said about the people who keep their culture. They will remain tight. They will be successful. They will withstand any force, even with rudimentary weapons. Weapons. Nations need weapons. Nations need weapons because without weapons, everybody will come and prey on you. This is a time when the whole world has been destabilized by the Anglo-American Empire. The British Empire first destabilized the world and destroyed cultures. After that, they passed it on to their sons and their vagabonds and their cousins, and who created the American Empire, which has been going around the world, destroying cultures and destroying civilizations. The only way you can tell them to stop if you have your weapons, just like Russia has done. Russia says, no, you are not going to steal another country, you are not going to destroy another country, and we don't care what you say with your so-called international community, with your so-called rating agencies. These are all scams that these thieves have invented. The rating agency, who rating who? How can a thief rate you? A thief would rate you how? The International Monetary Fund, the World Bank. These are just channels of theft. Thieving organizations. That set themselves up to steal from one country to another. By persuading that country to sell all its variables, to their sponsors. The people who sponsor these organizations are the people that will come and buy all these variables for cheap, because before they do it, the country has already reduced its currency. When you think about that, really, when you think about reducing your currency and how many times you have exchanged money, then you can see the value of keeping your money in cows and keeping your money in gold. Because if you have cows, you don't care whether the currency changes. It can change. You don't care about the dollar going up or going up, whatever. I mean, what is a dollar? The dollar is just a piece of paper that has graphics on it. And to imagine that you can sit somewhere, stamp a piece of paper, and then go and present it somewhere and get food, and present it somewhere and get a house, and present it somewhere and get a road, and present it somewhere and people respect you for this paper, not backed by anything. That's what, that shows you the power of the nightmare of propaganda and the nightmare of ideology, where you convince people that yes, you are going to, that you have a currency, and that currency is variable, and when the currency is nothing but a piece of paper that you have just put graphics on it. So those cultures that survived, those cultures that held on to their tradition, are a culture that are surviving now. Also, that brings us to the question of religion among the GA people. The women and the children, some women, some children, go and practice with other religions. But every person who is GA has to be initiated in the system, in the cultural system of the GA, has to be offer libation to the God of the GA, has to to worship at the shrine of the ancestors. Because really, those are your ancestors. Your ancestors. Those are the people who set up a system that is making you grow up. Those are the people setting up a system that respects you. Now, why would you leave those ancestors and then go to worship, to recognize Abraham and Isaac and all the ancestors that mean nothing to you, have never done anything, they are not related to you. The system that you should recognize is the system of your own ancestors, that you are related to by blood, that you are related to by culture, that set up a system that benefits you. So this is the system, this is the tradition, of the GA people who have come through thick and thin, who have braved almost all the troubles and the trials and the tribulations, and who are standing at the threshold of history as the guardians of African culture and African tradition. And I am committed to defend this system of the GA people, to defend this beautiful culture, of the GA people. Of course, culture means to grow. Culture also has to grow. Culture also has to, take things that are good and sometimes shed things that are not good. But when they are shedding the things that are not good, they have to understand what are those things that are not good and why they think those things are not good. Most of these people are complaining about elephants eating their crops, lions eating their cows. Is it really fair that an elephant should have 100 square miles when a human being has none? Yeah? When they say this is a game reserve, you are reserving the games for who? To Europeans, just because they can pay a lot of money and they go and hunt, So no. So, these things, should change. The system should be a system that is calculated to look after people, and the system should be a system that is calculated to look at the best image and best interest of African people. And, for me, as Kiurankuba, Lojokotao, the name which was given to me, I am prepared, to stand shoulder to shoulder with my people, the GA, and see how the beauty of this culture and the beauty of this system can be lessons for all those people who have abandoned their culture, their history, and their tradition.